Hello, I'm Senate Minority Leader Eric Kearney from Cincinnati. Welcome to Ohio in Focus.
Welcome to Ohio in Focus, the program that brings state government to you. I'm your host, Mike Rao. The General Assembly is on a summer break after wrapping up a very busy first 6 months of the year, much of that time dedicated to passing the state budget. Our focus today, what's in the budget and what's missing. To talk about the budget, we're joined by Senate Minority Leader Eric Kearney from Cincinnati. Senator, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Michael, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
So let's run down some major aspects of the state budget, which the General Assembly has spent quite a bit of time debating. The first one is changes to taxes in Ohio. There was changes to the income tax, sales tax, property tax. What's your opinion or read on what happened?
Well, I oppose the sales tax increase, and the reason that I oppose it is because it impacts all of Ohioans. Every time you go to buy a car, or if you buy a washer and dryer, if you go to the store to buy a shirt or a tie or whatever it might be, you have to pay that sales tax. That hits every Ohioan, whether you make $10,000 a year or whether you make $1 million a year, but it has a greater impact on those who make less money. And so that aspect of the budget, the tax increase that was included, was something that I thought was not the right direction for our state because it will not help us to grow. Other aspects of the budget is the rollback on the property tax, which is effectively a tax increase for those Ohioans. Many people don't realize that the state of Ohio pays a certain share of your property taxes. And so rolling it back, meaning eliminating that, means that people will have to pay more in property taxes. That also hits Ohioans' wallets. And it's really very unfair to those who are seniors and who are getting close to being seniors. And so those were two aspects of the budget that I just think are wrong. It's not the right direction for Ohio.
And one concern that's been then put out there by school districts, boards of education about the property tax rollback, even local townships and so forth, is the fact that it's new levies. And in many cases, schools and townships and local governments have seen some budget cuts in recent years, and they need to generate more revenue, but yet this could be a hindrance.
Right, exactly. So school districts and local communities are caught in a catch-22. That is, the state of Ohio has decreased their funding effectively over the past 3 years. So they have to go to the voters with levies. Well, voters are sick of levies. They're saying, no, we don't want to do these levies. And with this property tax rollback, it makes it tougher to get those people, to get residents to support those levies because it's a greater strain on people's wallets. So my view is we should fairly fund local communities. We should definitely fund our schools. Which is another aspect of the budget that I just don't think cuts it. I mean, we used our resources, we had a little bit of extra money, and we didn't use that money to help local schools, particularly pre-K and early education. So I would just say, in terms of taxes, getting back to that particular issue, the budget was just in the wrong place, and they're squeezing people, they're squeezing local communities, and squeezing schools.
You brought up education, so let's talk a little bit about that. The funding for schools, whether it's pre-K or the whole picture of pre-K all the way up to high school. Senate Democrats have proposed a couple of different things in that area. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, a couple of things is we set out a four-part plan that kind of controlled our messaging and the bills that we presented during the budget cycle. And the number one aspect of that was fund and protect Ohio's greatest asset, our children. And what we thought the priority was that the state of Ohio should spend most of its money early in a child's life, like pre-K, kindergarten, early education because the impact, the improvement could be felt throughout. So if we were to spend money on pre-K, kindergarten, early childhood education, that would help with the third grade reading guarantee. It would help in terms of kids later on passing the proficiency test or the test in order to graduate from high school. So that's where we think the emphasis should be, and we proposed legislation to do just that.
On the issue of local communities across the state, once again, another part of Ohio that's been hit by budget cuts in recent years. Was enough done there?
No, I don't think enough was done, and this is the problem. If you compare where the local communities are to before Governor Kasich took office, you'll see that there's been a decrease in the resources they have. So what does that mean to the average person? Well, that means that there's not enough police or fire protection. The roads are not taken care of as quickly as they could. Those are real impacts to local communities that impact the quality of life of many Ohioans. And so in our view, we should support the local governments, provide them with the resources they need to have adequate police and fire, to provide for road cleaning and provide for their roads, and to improve the quality of life for the Ohioans that live in these communities.
And when we're talking about the budget, one other thing that I have to bring up is what became very contentious at the end of the budget debate were some things that were put in at the last minute dealing with women's reproductive rights. We saw some protests at the State House in reaction to that. Just talk about that and what your thoughts are.
Well, a couple of things. One, I believe the law is clear that women have a right to choose. If they want to do that, if they want to participate in that activity, then the law is available to them. And this end run around the law, which the majority is participating in, is reprehensible. It was defunding of Planned Parenthood. It's limiting the rights of women to choose. And in our view, we should follow the law that has been established by the United States Supreme Court. We should protect a woman's right to choose.
And I guess the problem a lot of people had was the way that was put in.
Right.
At the
Well,
last
it was at the last minute, and there wasn't debate. That's a good point. If you're going to take that step, then there should be open debate, and people should be allowed to exchange their ideas.
So we've talked about what's in the budget. Let's touch on something that's missing from the budget, and that's Medicaid expansion, which was talked about since the beginning of this year, but still has not happened. Obviously your caucus supports it. Where is that all heading, and how did we get to this point?
Well, we're advocates for Medicaid reform. We want to offer that service or that program to Ohioans. You may recall that we put on the table a Medicaid expansion or Medicaid reform, whatever phrase you want to use, bill, which all members of the Ohio Senate Democratic Caucus signed on to. We've been across the state speaking to groups, telling people about why Medicaid expansion is important, because it covers those who are working but do not have health care coverage. We've been working with local hospitals and local health care providers to explain to people this is something that's really very important. To a certain extent, I have to compliment Governor Kasich for being bold enough and courageous enough to actually put it forward in his executive budget bill. But I really wish Governor Kasich had put a little pressure on leaders in the House and in the Senate to actually pass Medicaid expansion. It's very important to Ohioans. I very much would like to see it go forward.
So this would help 275,000 Ohioans get access to health care, many of them veterans, and as you said, the working poor. The legislature is on summer break, but the fight goes on.
Yes,
that's right.
It does. Right. So I've asked members of the Senate Democratic Caucus to meet with our Republican colleagues, and they're conducting meetings throughout the summer months. So even though people think, oh, they're on break, there's still work going on. I've had a number of meetings with people from both sides of the issue, trying to get a compromise, something that can go forward, that's pragmatic, that works for Ohioans, that helps these 275,000 families and individuals without health care. So we're still working on it. We're working very hard. I've tried to get support from the federal government in order to come to Ohio and help us negotiate something. So we're working very hard. We want to see this happen. And the Senate Democratic Caucus has frankly been the lead on this issue.
All right. Well, thank you, Senator Kearney, for stopping by to talk about the budget.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Well, you can follow the latest news on Senator Kearney and the Ohio Senate Democratic Caucus on Facebook, Twitter, and at ohiosenate.gov. Thanks for watching Ohio in Focus.